The market isn't wrong. Your expectations are. What's the fair price of a Bitcoin? Is it $1,000? Is it $1 million? Is it zero? There's no way to put a value on Bitcoin as it's possible with other asset classes. With property, we have the future cash flows of rent. With stocks, we've got the future cash flows of dividends. But for Bitcoin, all we have are reference prices. What did other people pay for Bitcoin? And at what point might it be cheap or rather expensive? What we see here is a price distribution chart. So for what price did a particular Bitcoin move in the past? The short-term holders are in red, the long-term holders are in blue. We can see how many of the short-term holders are currently in losses and how it's the long-term holders that are still in profit. We can also see that many exchange wallets moved their balance slightly below 100K. Reference prices are really useful because it's the only real anchor point we have. If people are currently in aggregate in losses, but a part of the market still believes in Bitcoin long-term, then we tend to see less selling pressure. The realized price is the average cost basis of the market. When the current price is below that realized price, that means that on average, people are in losses. When we are currently above the realized price, people on average are in profit. And sometimes their profit gets taken. Losses, however, don't get realized that quickly, especially for an asset that tends to appreciate over the long term. Currently, the average cost basis is at $56,000, by the way. Here's another way to look at the reference prices. This is the long-term holder cost basis distribution heat map. Again, when many people are currently in profit, they might take their profit and bring it down to where many others have their cost basis. Currently, we might see rather some upward pressure again because the cost basis tends to be slightly higher. And so instead of looking at the realized price of the entire market, we can just look at the realized price of the long-term holders. Do you see the difference? The long-term holders tend to adjust their price basis a bit later. Their average cost basis is at $39,000. And at the end of a bear market, we tended to even fall below that cost basis. Now, I'm not saying that we're going below 39K because of the long term. This is also increasing. But if we were to suddenly see a black swan event, something like COVID or something like the GFC or a quick sell-off by AI stocks, this is potentially a price target. This is where things start to become cheap again. It's currently at 39K, but of course the tendency of that price is going up as long-term holders are taking profit. Again, most long-term holders are of course in profit because they bought their Bitcoin at 20, 40 or even 60K. Now, since the beginning of 2023, we are in a bull market. Bitcoin has gone up from a bit over 15K to our current price levels, and every now and then we do see profit taking. So in the second quarter of 2022, Bitcoin fell by 27%. In the first quarter of 2025, it fell by 29%. And in the last quarter of 2025, it fell by 32%. Is this potentially an opportunity to buy the dip? Is this current sell-off comparable to the corrections we have seen prior in this bull market? Not necessarily. Have a look at the realized loss by age. So this is now rather short-term wallets that have held Bitcoin between 6 to 12 months. They realized some losses at the prior dips, but they're realizing much more now. So the short-term holders are panicking much more during this dip compared to the prior dips of this bull run. Something is different. When it comes to smaller profit taking, so profit taking up to 20%, that's relatively constant throughout this bull market. Here is what has changed during this bull market. In the past, whenever Bitcoin rallied, the long-term holders took profit. And then when it dipped, they bought the dip. Then it rallied again, they took profit during the rally, then it dipped again, they bought the dip. But interestingly enough, this time the long-term holders were selling much more consistently. They sold into the rally, they started selling at around 110K, but they continued selling even when we were at 84K. Luckily, they have stopped their selling. Now, they're not aggressively buying yet. If they were, that would be a very positive signal, because whenever long-term holders buy, we tend to see subsequently a nice rally. We are not there at the moment, but at least currently the trend is a bit better compared to the end of last year. Here is why this metric matters, because many people are just looking at treasury companies, And while this is a positive trend, while the Bitcoin that's held by the treasury companies is going up over time, at the same time, we also see the ETFs accumulating more and more Bitcoin over time. While this is a positive impact, the impact is comparatively small. So again, this is the long-term holders. Now we add the ETF purchases. While they tend to be positive, most of the time, it's not necessarily for the shorter term movements that relevant. For the price development of Bitcoin over the next few weeks, it's really the long-term holder flows that have most impact. And again, luckily, they at least stopped their selling. By the way, the vast majority of the charts I've shown over here come from checkonchain.com. I'm not affiliated with them, but I do very much like the data that's presented here. Feel free to check that out as well. It's all free. And every week we also get a newsletter by Glassnode Insights. Some of the charts of this video come from here as well. There is some paid content here, but there's also plenty of free content. If you got some value out of this video, then feel free to give this a like. It will help the channel grow. Feel free to also check out the premium membership. This is where I share my own trades. This is where I get into more detail on how different capital flows impact not just the crypto market, but capital markets in general. There is a 1-week money back guarantee, so in case you don't like premium, there's really no risk. Just email me and I'll refund you, no questions asked. Thanks for watching. See you next time on YouTube or see you on premium. Cheers.